Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for yet another edition to the Diecast Emporium Military Monday series. As always, Military Mondays on Diecast Emporium are brought to you by my friends at smallscalehobbies.com. There is their website. Here is their information on their card. They even have a storefront if you are local to the Manitowoc, Wisconsin area. Cannot recommend these guys enough. So if you are into military collectibles, be sure to check them out. On today's edition, when you think of medium tanks from World War II, particularly on the Allied side, chances are you think of the M4 Sherman tank. Well, there were several different variations of the venerable Sherman tank, which helped win the Second Great War, and that vehicle will have its day here on Diecast Emporium, but we are not here to talk about the standard version of the Sherman tank. No, sir. We are here to talk about the infamous M4 Sherman tank dozer. So why was this particular variant of the Sherman tank so influential and so infamous when we talk about World War II? Well, it was really the first time in history that a bulldozer vehicle was mass utilized throughout the campaign in both theaters of war, but really mostly in the Pacific, in the European theater of operation. They were used in the Pacific, but much, much, much more so in the European theater. So they first saw combat action in Italy, and they really proved themselves so invaluable that before D-Day, I believe it was Eisenhower who put a request in. He wanted to have nearly 350 to 400 of these bulldozer tanks available for the Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy, D-Day, as everybody knows it. Unfortunately, only a fraction of those tanks ever got delivered in time for the invasion, but again, they were critical to achieving the hard-fought victory we know as D-Day. So what were they used for? Well, they were used to clear anti-tank obstacles. They were used to allow troops to move up through the beach and clear off the beach. They moved mines. They did so many different things. They helped move disabled vehicles. And the advantage of having a dozer blade on a tank, whereas in place of just a standard bulldozer of the time, so like a Cat D7 or even an old Alice Chalmers dozer, is that it can help lay down some firepower as well. Obviously, if you're talking about a bulldozer, you're not going to be able to lay down a whole lot of firepower if it's just a standard bulldozer. This, essentially, you have a tank with a cannon or a howitzer on it and some machine gun, so you can protect the occupants inside as well as the troops that may be behind it that utilize it for cover while it's doing its job. So how does the blade mount to the side of the tank? It's really quite simple. If I've done my research correctly, the side mount here, which is one of two different variations of the Sherman bulldozers, you attach 3 or 4 different screws or lugs onto one of the bogie wheels on each side. There is a hydraulic connection right here on the center, and essentially you are off to the races. And another advantage of using a Sherman bulldozer tank is many of the tankers of the time were plucked from farms, so they were very familiar with how tractors worked and some construction equipment of the time worked. So it wasn't necessary to retrain them. They were very familiar with mechanical devices and how things worked. So also, before people started adding the hedgerows to Stuarts and Lees and Shermans, the bulldozers often were the best method for breaking through the dense hedgerows in Europe, shortly after the D-Day invasion. So there were countless different uses for these bulldozer tanks, and you can really still see how that lineage from World War II can be seen today. Bulldozers in the military are still used with the Cat D9Rs that you can see in the Marine Corps and the Army, and that's in service with several different other NATO militaries throughout the world. So it's nice to see kind of where we came from and where we are. So let's transition now to the model that you have seen in front of you for the last 4.5 minutes. This is made by AlsaCast, which is a resin company. As you can see, I am not totally finished with this. I would like to add some star and allied marking decals once I get those. I would like to fix up this blade a little bit. I might completely sand this down, use some primer and cover it, because this side is I have tried to paint this and touch this up probably 6 times, and it's just not adhering to this. So I will have that fixed. But other than that, it is painted in Tamiya Olive Drab number 2, which is a extremely accurate color to what most of the Allied vehicles were painted in for the Second World War. And then I used Tamiya black rubber for the treads on the tank portion of it. And then I used some gunmetal black for the machine gun that's up here. So that is the model. It comes mostly in like 10 pieces or less. You have to assemble the sidearm mounts. The main portion here you have to assemble. The blade is assembled. You just have to cut it from a spruce. The tracks are assembled in 2 pieces. So you have the right side track frames, left side track frames. You have to put the turret together. And really that's it. That's why I like these AlsaCast kits the most, because I am not an experienced HO resin or plastic model builder. I've done a handful over the years. But comparing AlsaCast to Trident, for example, Trident is much more involved and much more difficult to assemble. And quite frankly, some of the Trident directions are horrendous and very hard to follow. So if you are just starting out in this hobby in particular, I cannot recommend AlsaCast enough. They are a fun weekend activity and a fun kit to do. Relatively user-friendly. You don't have to worry about breaking small pieces off of the spruce. That, of course, you would have to worry about in a Trident kit. And also Arsenal M is a good one as well. So AlsaCast or Arsenal M. Here's what the box looks like. M4 Sherman Bulldozer Tank, 187 scale military kit. The item number for this is 8775.141 for reference. This is available on the Small Scale Hobbies website. In fact, if you check down in the video's description right down here, I will have a URL link. So if you are interested in buying one of these, all you got to do is click on the link. It'll take you straight to this on their website. I believe this was between $15 and $20 US, so extremely affordable. And again, it's fun to do. It's very simplistic and enjoyable to do. Here's what the directions look like. Again, pretty easy to follow. So the treads, again, those are in 1 piece. Well, really 2 pieces, but for each side they're in 1 piece. Here's your side frames that you have to put on. Obviously, your blades, mechanism that you have to put on, the turret, your main gun, your machine gun, the hatches. You will have to obviously assemble this, glue it, prime it, paint it, and decal it. And then there's nothing on the back of the decal sheet, but I just wanted to show you it. As for what else is in the box that I have left, I don't think there's much. Here's what's left of the resin spruces. So here is a couple of the small guns right here that should go on the front, like here, here, and here, which I haven't put on yet. Actually, if you look at this other Sherman, you can see where one of the guns is right here. So I got to add that at some point. And then here's the other machine gun that I didn't paint or decal yet at all. That's pretty much it for the rest of the pieces. And then there's nothing else in the box. So that will conclude this edition of Diecast Emporium Military Mondays. And of course, the subject of this video was the M4 Sherman medium tank with the M1 dozer blade. A very, very, very significant vehicle in World War II history. And like I said, it is important to see how we got to where we are today by looking back on world history. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, take care and be well. I'll see you in the next review.